It started with an envelope, not a text, not a late-night whisper, not even some suggestive joke over wine. Just a plain white envelope, sitting on my pillow like it had been hand-delivered by fate. Clara stood in the doorway, arms crossed, lips curled in that smug little smile she reserved for moments when she thought she was about to change my life or ruin it. "Open it," she said. I glanced at her, then back at the envelope. My fingers hesitated. "Is this a trap?" "Ryan," she rolled her eyes. "Do I look like someone who sets traps?" I didn't answer. Of course she did. She looked exactly like someone who sets traps. Elegant, sharp, and 10 steps ahead. I tore it open. A single sheet of thick, cream-colored paper slid out. 20 rules, 20 days, a commitment to clarity, passion, and discipline. "What is this? Some kind of New Age contract?" She stepped closer, took the page from my hands, and read aloud with a slow, measured voice. Rule 1. You may not touch me unless I say so. No exceptions, no surprises, no late-night curiosity. You will wait, and you will be grateful when permission is granted. I blinked. She smiled wider. Every day a new rule, 20 in total. If you complete all 20 days without complaint or deviation, I'll grant you one wish. One wish, I repeated flatly. Anything you want, no limits. I chuckled, shaking my head. Is this some twisted version of a fairy tale? Clara leaned in, brushed her lips against my ear and whispered, "Not twisted, refined." That night, I waited. Waited for her to say yes. Waited for her to look at me a certain way. Waited like some obedient schoolboy hoping to be noticed. She didn't say a word, just crawled under the covers and turned her back to me. Rule 1 in full effect. Day 2. By morning, she'd taped the rule on the bathroom mirror. A new one had been placed next to it. Rule 2, every night you will give me a foot massage. Duration, 15 minutes. Use the lavender oil, no shortcuts, no talking unless spoken to. She didn't even greet me, just pointed at her foot like a queen presenting her hand to a servant. You're serious about this. You agreed, didn't you? I never actually said yes. You didn't say no either. By day 3, I had stopped sleeping properly. Not because the rules were physically exhausting, I've done worse on business trips, but because something in them made me feel erased. That day's rule? Rule 3. You'll wear only the sleepwear I've laid out for you. From now on, comfort is earned, not assumed. It was a set of tight gray boxers and a faded, childish t-shirt with a cartoon otter and the words, "I'm a cuddly boy," across the chest. When I walked out of the bathroom, Clara was already lying in bed, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, stared, grinned. "Perfect," she said. "Now turn around. Let me see the back." "Why?" "Because I can." I turned, cheeks burning. She laughed, not cruelly, not kindly either, just amused, like I was a novelty. That night, I didn't try to touch her, didn't even dare to speak. I just lay on my side of the bed, stiff in my stupid shirt, feeling like I'd signed up for a game I didn't understand, one where the rules weren't meant to improve us, but to test how much of myself I was willing to give up. And tomorrow, I knew there'd be Rule 4. Day 4. I found the next rule taped to the coffee machine. She didn't even say good morning. Rule 4. You must ask before every kiss. Any touch, lips, hand, cheek, must be approved in advance. No assumptions, no exceptions. I stood there staring at it, barely awake, wondering if this was still some kind of teasing or something darker. Clara walked in wearing her robe and slippers like nothing had changed. She poured herself coffee, didn't even glance at me. "May I kiss you good morning?" I asked. She looked up, held eye contact for a second. No. Then sipped her coffee and walked away. I stood there like a fool with a knot in my stomach and the taste of rejection stuck in my throat. Day 5. That morning she didn't speak at all. I found the rule folded neatly on my pillow. Rule 5. Every interaction must begin with appreciation. A compliment, a thank you, a verbal acknowledgement of my energy and presence. When she came home from yoga, sweaty and glowing, I was waiting at the door. "You look powerful today," I said. "Only today?" "I meant too late." She brushed past me, dropped her mat on the floor, and headed to the shower. Later that night, I tried again. "You've got this aura about you lately," I said. "You feel in control." Clara paused, then turned to me and smiled, that slow, dangerous smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Now you're learning." Day 6. Rule 6. Submit a request before intimacy. Text, not verbal. Minimum notice, 3 hours, 3 hours. She wanted scheduling now. I typed it out like I was writing to my manager. Subject, request for intimate time body. "Hi Clara, if you're free tonight around 10 p.m., I would love to share some closeness. I'll prepare candles and clean sheets. Please confirm. Yours, R." No reply for 2 hours. Then finally, declined. Too tired. Resubmit tomorrow. I stared at the message for a full minute. I wasn't even sure what was worse, the rejection or the professionalism of it all. She had turned my desire into a form submission. Day 7. That morning, no paper, no note. I almost felt relieved. Then at breakfast she said calmly, "You broke Rule 5 last night." "What?" "You didn't compliment me before sending the request. I called you radiant during dinner. Not in the text. I just blinked. So, as per Rule 1's clause, today is a silent day. No touching, no conversation unless initiated by me. Understood?" "Yes." "And say it properly." "Yes, ma'am." She smiled softly. "Good boy." That was the first time she said it. And something about those 2 words, "good boy," made something inside me twist. Not because of the words themselves, but because of how natural they sounded coming from her. Like I was already used to them. Like maybe I wanted to hear them again. That night, we lay in bed. Or rather, I lay in my corner, curled into myself like a guest on the edge of a borrowed mattress. She didn't speak. Didn't move. And I lay there wondering, was this still a game I could win? Or had I already started losing without noticing? Because the scariest part wasn't the silence. It was how normal it was beginning to feel. Day 8. The rule was waiting for me on the fridge, held up by a heart-shaped magnet. Rule 8. Each evening you will express gratitude for 3 things I've done that day. Be specific. Be sincere. Be humble. At first, I thought it was harmless, even healthy. But that night, as I stood next to the bed, listing off things like, "Thanks for making dinner," and "Thanks for watering the plants," she interrupted me mid-sentence. That last one didn't sound sincere. I hesitated. "I meant it." "Say it again, and look me in the eyes this time." I did. And she stared back, searching for something behind my face. Then she nodded, satisfied. "You're learning presence," she said. "Not just obedience. Presence." She said the word like it was sacred. Day 9. There was no note today, just a small black box left on my side of the bed. Inside was a thin leather bracelet, minimalistic, subtle, but on the inside of the strap, engraved so small it was barely visible, were the words, "Good boy." I stared at it for a long time. When I finally walked out wearing it, Clara looked up from her tablet and smiled, like she'd just completed a step in a project. "Let me see," she said. I held out my wrist. She touched the bracelet like it was a collar. "You'll wear it from now on, not just in the bedroom, everywhere. Consider it a reminder." A reminder of what? Who you're becoming. Day 10. Rule 10. No sitting on the bed until I allow it. You will stand by quietly and wait until invited. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. She sat down with her cup of tea, crossed her legs, and opened a book. I stood there barefoot on the wooden floor for 15 minutes until she looked up. "You may sit." It was a single sentence like tossing a bone to a dog. And the worst part? I obeyed without thinking. My body moved before my pride could intervene. That night, she stroked my wrist absent-mindedly while we lay in bed, her fingers tracing the leather band like it was part of me now. "You're adjusting beautifully," she whispered. "I'm proud of you." Something in me wanted to scream. Something else wanted to make her proud again. Day 11. Rule 11. No initiating. Anything physical must come from me. No exceptions. When she came home from work, she looked radiant, confident. I stood up to greet her, instinctively stepping forward. She raised a hand. "Don't." I froze. "You broke Rule 11. It's only been 2 hours. She gave me a look that shut me up instantly. "Starting now, you sleep on the floor for the night. Think of it as a recalibration." That night I lay on a throw blanket next to the bed, listening to her breathing above me. And for the first time, I realized I didn't feel any spark. No warmth, no desire. I wasn't even angry. I was numb, like a machine that runs on a loop, silent, efficient, obedient. I stared at the ceiling in the dark and asked myself a question I hadn't dared think until now. If I complete all 20 days, who will I be at the end? And worse, what if she likes that version more? Day 12. Rule 12. Silence is sacred. No speaking in the bedroom unless you are directly addressed. Whispering counts as a breach. That night, I came into the bedroom and found Clara sitting cross-legged on the bed, eyes closed, incense burning. She didn't open her eyes when I entered, so I stood there, quiet, still, waiting. Minutes passed. My knees ached, my back tightened, but I didn't move. Eventually, she said, eyes still closed, "You may kneel." Kneel, not sit, not lie down, just kneel. And so I did, like I was in a chapel I didn't believe in anymore. Day 13. She didn't speak to me all day. No rule on the mirror, no texts, just nothing. That evening, there was a folded note on my dinner plate. Rule 13. From now on, all emotional needs must be journaled, not vocalized. If you feel neglected, write it down. I will review once a week. I laughed. Out loud. I actually laughed. Then I looked up, and she was staring at me. Blank expression, chin slightly raised, as if I'd just broken something delicate. "You find this funny?" "Yes. I mean, come on. Are you seriously turning marriage into a customer feedback system?" "No," she said calmly. "I'm teaching you self-regulation, emotional containment, presence over performance." I wanted to scream, but I said nothing. Later that night, I wrote in the damn journal anyway. Day 14. She didn't come to bed. She made up a bed in the guest room and said it was for energetic separation. "Sometimes," she explained, "connection grows better in solitude." I didn't argue, because deep down, I wasn't sure I wanted her next to me that night. Her absence almost felt like a reprieve. Day 15. Rule 15. You may not refer to me as wife for the remainder of the experiment. Use Clara or guide. Titles imply ownership, and this journey is about release. When I read it, something snapped, not with fire, not with rage, but with a strange, exhausted clarity. She wasn't trying to improve us. She was testing how far I would bend. And the terrifying part? I was still bending. That evening, Clara returned from a dinner with her coworkers. She smelled like perfume that wasn't hers. Lipstick brighter than usual. "Did you miss me?" she asked, dropping her heels by the door. I journaled it. "Good boy," she said absent-mindedly, walking past. I didn't follow her. I just sat there on the edge of the couch, leather bracelet digging into my wrist, wondering when exactly I had stopped being a man and become a project. Day 16. Rule 16. Watch this video, in full. Then write 300 words reflecting on how obedience can be a form of love. It was a TEDx-style talk. A woman, sharp, articulate, eerily calm, describing how surrendering control could deepen intimacy. It wasn't even the content that disturbed me. It was how familiar her tone sounded, like Clara had memorized it, echoed it, made it her gospel. After the video ended, I sat for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and typed exactly 307 words. But not for her. For myself. I wrote, "I think I've been pretending this is a choice. But the truth is, I'm not participating. I'm enduring. There's a difference." That night, I didn't kneel. I lay on the couch in the guest room and didn't even say goodnight. Clara didn't check on me, didn't say a word, just silence. And for the first time, I was grateful for it. Day 17. The rule was taped to the inside of the fridge door, like a warning hidden behind comfort. Rule 17. From this day forward, before bed, you will write 3 reasons why you are lucky to have me, and 1 reason why I'm too good for you. It didn't even pretend to be subtle anymore. I stared at the paper as the light from the fridge flickered on my face. Something inside me turned cold. Not angry. Just hollow. That night I wrote, "You're decisive. You don't settle. You challenge me." And for the 4th line, the one that hurt the most, I wrote, "Because I let you." Day 18. She waited for me in the living room when I got home, dressed immaculately, hair perfect, glass of wine in hand. On the table sat a single sheet of paper, neatly typed. Rule 18. Tonight you will observe, not participate. Presence without involvement. Stillness without seeking. I looked at her. What does that even mean? "You'll understand," she said. "Just sit, and don't speak." She turned on soft music, lit a candle, and sat down on the couch across from me. Legs crossed, dress adjusted, eyes calm. She didn't look at me again. Not once. For the next 40 minutes she simply sat, legs shifting now and then, eyes half closed, breathing deep. Occasionally she whispered affirmations to herself like, "I am desired, I am sovereign, I am untouchable." I sat and watched, like a guest, like a ghost, like a warning. Day 19. Rule 19. I did this experiment once before. He didn't finish it. "I hope you're different." That was all the note said. She didn't explain. I didn't ask. But something sank in my gut. The way she said it. Not with bitterness, but with pride. Like I was the second draft of something she had already started. That night, I didn't write my gratitude list. I didn't even pretend to. I just sat by the window in the guest room, staring out into the dark, wondering if I was passing a test or failing at being human. I woke up on the 20th morning feeling nothing, not victory, not relief. Just the strange quiet that settles in when you've given too much for too long. When I walked into the kitchen, Clara was already there, composed, beautiful, holding a small white envelope like it was the key to something sacred. "Congratulations," she said. "You made it." I nodded. No smile, no thank you. "This," she continued, tapping the envelope, "is your reward." I opened it. Inside was a single certificate, printed, signed, dated. 20 days of obedience, completed. Issued by Clara M. Certified by self. I stared at it in disbelief. "You're kidding." "No. You followed the rules. That makes you ready for the final exercise." I tensed. I thought this was the final day. She smiled, calm, serene. "It is. That's why you're going to witness something. No rules now, just presence." She gestured to the armchair by the living room window. "Sit, watch, say nothing." I did. She picked up her phone, walked slowly to the couch, sat down like she was about to perform, and then she called someone. A man. He answered immediately. His face lit up on the screen. Tall, confident, smirking. "Hey, stranger," she said, her voice softer than it had been in weeks. "Miss me?" She giggled, brushed her hair back, tilted her head just enough to expose her neck. "I wore that perfume today. The one you said drove you crazy," she said, lowering her voice to a teasing whisper. Then she leaned back, crossed her legs, and let out a slow, suggestive sigh. The man chuckled. Dangerous move. She bit her lip. You like dangerous, she whispered. I sat there, frozen, watching my wife flirt with another man like I didn't exist. Not a wife. Not even a stranger. Just something else entirely. At one point, she looked over at me, met my eyes, didn't break character, didn't flinch, just smiled, like I was another piece of furniture, something obedient, something that wouldn't interrupt. Then she ended the call, turned back to me. You passed, she said. I didn't say anything when she said it. You passed? Passed what? The test of silence? The exam in erasure? The performance of watching her belong to someone else while I sat still like a trained animal? She stood, smoothed the front of her dress, walked over to the table, and poured herself a glass of wine. Like nothing happened. Like she hadn't just shattered whatever was left between us. You've grown so much, Ryan, she said, not looking at me. You were raw before, wild. Now you're refined, present, soft. I stood. She raised an eyebrow. Going somewhere? I nodded slowly. Where? Away from all this. A pause. She laughed, light, melodic, condescending. You're joking. I walked past her. She followed me to the hallway. Ryan, she said sharply, you agreed, you committed, you finished the program. I turned to her, not angry, just clear. I followed 20 rules for 20 days, I said. But I never wrote down mine. She narrowed her eyes. What rule? I stepped closer. Rule 21. Never stay where you're only useful when you're silent. She blinked, and for the first time in weeks, Clara had no words. I walked out of the house with no bag, no plan, just one final act of disobedience echoing in every step. I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. Some prisons don't need bars, just a calendar, and someone who calls it love. It's been 4 weeks since I left. People keep asking if I'm okay, like they expect some big unraveling, some confessional breakdown where I cry into my hands and admit I miss her, that I still dream of her fingers tracing my wrist, that I want her to call and say it meant something, but I don't. Not because I'm healed, not because I'm bitter, but because I finally understand what happened. It wasn't abuse in the way people imagine. No bruises, no screaming, no threats. It was precision, a slow, clinical stripping away of self under the banner of intimacy. She didn't break me. She sculpted me into something more compliant, more docile, more acceptable to her version of love. And for a while, I let her. That's the part that still haunts me. Not what she did, but how far I was willing to go to keep something that had already turned to ash. They say love is compromise, but this wasn't compromise. It was obedience with lipstick, affection with terms and conditions. I started that experiment thinking it was a game, a phase, something strange we'd laugh about later, in bed, tangled and breathless. But instead, I learned something else. I learned how easily a person can become invisible, one rule at a time. Now I live in a small apartment across town. Quiet, minimal, real. No notes taped to the mirror, no whispered affirmations, no leather bracelet with words carved into my skin, just air and silence. The kind I chose, the kind that doesn't ask me to kneel. Sometimes I still hear her voice in the back of my mind. You're learning. And I suppose she was right. I did learn, but not what she hoped. I learned that love without freedom is performance. That silence can be sacred, but only when it belongs to you. That watching someone flirt with another man while calling it a lesson isn't intimacy. It's theater. And I'm done being the audience. If she ever calls, I won't answer, not out of hate, but because I've already heard everything she had to say, and none of it was for me. I was never her husband. I was her mirror. And I finally stopped reflecting.